Now, a lot of people start knowing my name, like I'm earning the respect of others, but I didn't grasp till these later years that what did Louis always say, the most important respect is self-respect. You know, I use the past as like it's a brick that built something for me today. So it's over and I'm gonna learn from it. I didn't know I could quit. I didn't know quitting was an option. And here I am. I guess what we've been like harping on is staying power.
Yeah.
You know, or the old Rocky speech, like how many times can you get hit and get back up?
Yeah.
And it's like, I didn't know I could quit. I didn't know quitting was an option. And here I am.
Yeah.
And you know what? In business, as you know, sometimes you have to quit things.
Yeah.
That don't work. We need to quit that. We need to move on. Or XYZ was popular at that time. That's not working. Let's move on. Or in training, my shoulders aren't good. I need to get a yoke bar, period. End of story. You have to quit certain things to move on. But in certain things, like I tell people, like, I don't know if I could quit being a strength coach.
Yeah, that's the quitting thing when, God, it was going way back to when I was getting pinned all the time. So 11, 12, whatever it was. I was in a Hallmark store with my mom, right? And right at the checkout, they used to have these little, they're little cards. They're wallet cards, you know, that have little sayings and quotes on them. And I had the one that said it was a don't quit poem, you know, and my mom said, "Do you want that?" I said, "Yeah." So she buys it. And I had that in my wallet all the way up until 2 years ago, and it actually just fell apart. You know, I would read that every single day. And I think that, you know, the mentality that I have to not quit, you know, the no quitting type of thing, it's to a fault. That's kept me in things longer than it should have. You know, as you said, it's in business, sometimes you need to, let's just say pivot, right? That's better than quitting.
Correct.
You know, and just certain things in life too, you need to go to another chapter or whatever it was, but I was so driven by that. And I have no problem scaring people with saying that things are hard, because they are.
Yes.
You know, and you know, you have to learn how to be happy even when things are hard, because the things that are hard aren't hard for as long as you think they are.
That's right.
So, and hard times never last, and they never last as long as you think they do. They'll last in your mind as long as you want them to last. But the actual physicality of whatever that hard time is way shorter. So I think we live in between hards, you know, so so this is hard, and here it's not, it's cool. You push like a motherfucker when it's cool. You push as hard as you can, so when that next hard thing comes, you can knock it a little bit.
It changes your frame of reference.
Become calloused, right?
You do,
right?
And you need that. You become physically calloused, emotionally and mentally calloused, and then you realize, oh, that hard shit
makes you stronger.
Yep, and it prepared me for this next thing.
Yeah, so say Andre, like, you know, making fun of you or whatever, he's trying to teach you how to row. And, you know, you sitting there being all depressed and crying and all that other kind of stuff. You wouldn't do that now. You wouldn't do that 5 years from then. You've already done that. You already learned from that.
I did.
Right? Now, if that's protected and shielded, and, you know, if we do with our kids, we try to protect them from all that, then it won't happen when they're 10, 11. It's going to happen when they're 18. Then they're immature as fuck, and they don't know how to push through adversity.
It is what we're doing. If you look at, you know, I'm a full-time strength coach in a public school. That, I always say, is like the downfall of schools, and even, you know, just things in general, is we're always trying to help somebody avoid the hard. And like going back to what, you know, I was with Jim yesterday. His son is wrestling, and he's like, "Man, this shit's fucking hard to watch." So I'm like, "Listen, here, I'm going to tell you something. Like, your son's training with you. It's going to take a little bit of time, but once he learns wrestling and it's blended with strength training, there's a lot of kids who aren't strength training." I was like, he is going to crush it. And I am grateful. You know, they say, like, don't thank the sport, thank your coach. I'm still regularly in touch with my one of my coaches. He was the assistant. He was in college. We were not ready for what they were teaching us. They were showing us plyometrics, the intensity and the work ethic. But I'm always grateful for how tough they made me, because I remember times feeling like, man, I better slow down. And right at that moment, Scott walks by and's like, "That's a great pace, Zach, keep going." And I was like, I guess I'm not slowing down, because I wanted to make him proud. And so this whole work ethic thing, and kind of like that earning respect. I think that's also what work ethic taught us so much. And in my high school years, I came across it was a VHS. It was called Competitor Supreme by Dan Gable. The whole theme of it was, first, Iowa was dominating wrestling. Like they won like 11 national titles in a row. He's like, you have to outwork the competition all the time. So the day after he won his Olympic gold medal, he was out running the next day. So I'm like, I got to outwork everybody. Work. So work is still like so ingrained in me. But in schools now, we want to have an adjustment for you, Dave, another one for me, another one for this person. If this person doesn't want to do it now, they could do it 3 weeks from now. There's no like, your back is not against the wall in anything. So you never feel a threat to push you, to make you better. Hey, you don't want to do this. We will give you, there's like 70 options. In life, sometimes we don't have any option. And the only option is fucking go through it.
Yeah, sometimes I wonder, though, if that, follow me for a minute, if that really matters, right? Because I think back to when I was going through school, not everybody worked hard. Only a very few actually worked hard.
Athletics or
in athletics or academics or anything. You know, there was still just the top 10%, right? Now, and I worked hard in athletics. You know, I didn't work hard in school,
Academics,
right? And I think that, so if the majority was still not working hard, not applying themselves to the level that they would apply themselves to, that's the same now, right?
It is, you're right. It's a lot of people who are just doing enough, but I still feel the power of somebody pushing you and challenging you versus saying, hey, I got an option for you. I got an idea for you. I could give you these other options. And when you have that person that's pushing you, you start learning like, oh, I am capable of this next level. And I think that builds you internally. Yeah. I mean, you talk about it all the time. The training, you know, people might think, oh, you guys do it because you want to be jacked. Nah, man. We do it because without this, like, I don't even know. I don't think I would be here because the training does something for my mind.
It definitely does. It still comes down to the individual to make a decision on how they're going to interpret a message.
Yes.
Right? Because somebody could, you know, tell somebody at a young age, you know, you can't do this. And one person may believe it. The other person may say, fuck you, I can't.
Yeah.
Right? So who has control over that? You know, that goes back to that
your
individual.
Environment, I think the regularity of what's in your environment. So on a basic level, I used to hear stories like this. Hey, why is all the Pennsylvania wrestlers beating New Jersey? They're like, because the kids are, you know, they're around their parents who are working on farms, and there's a climbing rope in every garage of every wrestler. So you're surrounded by it. You're surrounded by, that's your normal. Work hard, be strong. So the regularity of things. So if I'm around people that are always kind of like succeeding and winning, you just think these are like normal things that you can achieve. But if you only get a little piece of it here, this person pushes you here, then somebody, you know, you need this like consistent environment. And it's like, it's like training. You go back to your early days of Westside Barbell, everyone was competitive. So you just thought, hey man, this is.
But it's a choice who you surround yourself with.
But sometimes you don't know where to go to find that stuff. So it's like I think there's a bit of luck in life of like somebody dropping you off at the right place, meeting, you know, maybe, you know, if I would have met Andre 2 years later, I wouldn't have cried and he would have taught me weightlifting and blah, blah, blah. But, you know, I use the past as like, it's a brick that built something for me today. So it's over and I'm going to learn from it. Yeah. But why? Because being in so many gyms, I learn from experiences.
Dave Tate here from Elite FTS to talk to you about bands. We've been a supplier of bands for almost 2 decades now. So I know my way around the band landscape. When I'm talking about bands, I'm talking about floss bands, long bands, short bands, bands you can use for resistance training, mobility training, body weight training, and flossing. One of our most popular bands, or actually our most popular bands, are the long bands. The long bands are typically used the most with squats, bench presses. Our floss bands are bands that you wrap around the joint to be able to help with mobility, circulation. And the short bands are designed for shorter range movements, bench press, deadlifts, and a lot of times people will use them with resistance machines to help accommodate the strength resistance curve. Head over to elitefts.com and look for bands in the toolbar or blowout menu.
So your environment, as you know, like,
it's huge.
I mean, I don't even know if I want to say it's everything, but
it's pretty big, man.
You have like pieces, right? You have the family, then you have the school. So what is the message that you're consistently across? So in wrestling, that message to me was hard work. I watched Competitor Supreme VHS tape like every day for a gazillion days. Outwork everybody. And then going back to what you said about people kind of like paying attention to you, a compliment would be given to me in a gym. Like, I see you working, kid. I like what I see. So what did that tell me to do? Work fucking harder.
Yeah.
I will earn the respect of everybody, of more people. And then I also learned that people started respecting me. People didn't pay attention to me when I weighed 130 pounds. When I weighed 145 pounds, some people started learning my name. When I got to 175, more people learned my name. Then when I got near 200 pounds and I'm starting to like do rowing with the whole cable stack, now a lot of people start knowing my name. And I started learning, oh man, like I'm earning the respect of others. But I didn't grasp till these later years that what did Louis always say, the most important respect is self-respect. And that's where you go kind of deeper with things.
Well, the environment, you know, it's using our backgrounds again as the example, you know, my environment was the people I was around, you know, that knew their shit, you know, to be able to do that. You didn't have that, but you were reading it, right? So the environment just isn't the people around you. It's the content that you're absorbing. It's the books that you're reading. It's the educational materials. So even if somebody is in a polluted environment, it's obviously it's not great, right? It's not the best thing in the whole world, but if they're being exposed to content, and they could have role models that they've never met, you know, so it's a movie character or whatever character in a book, content that they're consuming, whatever it is. Now there's a whole nother rabbit hole there. If the content's all shit, well then that's just reinforcing the shit environment. It's just making it even worse. But if the passion is there, you'll seek and find the environment that you need to be able to grow, and that's personal accountability and responsibility. That I believe is probably taught to us well before we even hit our teens.
Oh yeah. I'm like thinking of like, as you're talking about the gyms you went to on each hand. When I think guys like us, we graduate high school, we're 17, maybe 18. Today, kids graduate high school at 19. Okay, some of them 18. You have a different like mindset when you're 19 compared to 17. I graduated high school, I'm 17. The next year I'm in college, freshman year. I'm still kind of like battling that, like I lost so much in wrestling, yet worked so hard. It was weighing on me. And then after 4 years, now I have this winter of not wrestling. So I was going back to the high school to wrestle. And I was like revenging people. But I still was struggling. And you mentioned the environment. That next summer, so I had turned 18 my freshman year in college. We go to Israel. I hadn't been to Israel since my sophomore year, so it's like 4 years later. One of my friends in Israel says, Zach, like, you walk around, you know, you walk around like a zombie. You walk around like we're at a funeral. He's like, that you can't be successful in life that way. He's like, you can't do it. He's like, you got to wake up in the morning and be like, yeah, man, today, what's today going to bring me? Only great things. And I thought it was like, kind of like hitting me in an interesting way. I was like, man, 6 months I'm walking around. I feel like my head's up my ass. I haven't built any muscle. I still weigh 185 pounds. I'm training hard, eating good. I'm not getting better. And I started, like, when he said it to me, I was pissed off at myself. I'm like, past 6 months, I'm like, he said, you're walking around like a zombie. The way I equated it was the way he said it in Hebrew was like, you're dead, you're alive, but you're not living. You're walking around like a dead man. While there was a new gym that opened up. It wasn't a gym. It was like a very small store. And my older brother was in the Israeli army, and he was telling me that every other weekend he comes home and he trains with the gym owner and this guy, Joe. The gym owner was like a former like PT instructor in the Israeli army, and this guy, Joe, is trying to be a Navy SEAL from America, comes to Israel. So I got talking about, like, it just gave me this memory of like being around the right people. My friend Amir tells me, like, yo, wake the fuck up, man. Stop walking around like a zombie. I go to this little gym. I mean, so small, maybe 800, 900 square feet, if that. And as I walk down the stairs, I see a poster for the Mr. Israel bodybuilding show. Ever since age 13 and a half, I'm consumed with bodybuilding. And then here I am. I'm like, I'll go watch. Avner sees me one night lifting. And he's like, how old are you? 18. He's like, you're 18. You should do this bodybuilding show. And I'm like, I don't really know. I'm not ready, blah, blah, blah. He's like, all right, whatever. You know, your brother comes here. You want to come here. He doesn't like give me the really much like push. The next day or 2 days later, I go to the gym during the morning. It may have been a Saturday. I see Joe in there training. And he's benching 2 plates and a 35. Okay. I always remember because I'm not a fan of 35. I remember that 35. And he's benching and somebody spots him and like touches the bar too early. And he gets up and he's like, I told you not to help me. He's like, I don't even want this much help. And I introduce myself to him. I train with him. I train with Avner. And that guy, my friend Amir's like, mentioning environment. I got into this environment for like 3 weeks. But that moment and that environment changed my life because everybody was saying, "You go for it. You know, believe in yourself." I never believed in myself. Amir was basically saying, you need to just give yourself permission to believe. It's no more complicated than that. You need to fucking draw a line in the sand and step over that line. That's what he was telling me. And that experience with those guys, training with them, being around people that were like, hey, walking around depressed is not cool. It ain't normal. There's nothing good about it. End that shit. And so for a few days, a week, Avner every day is like, do you want to compete in the bodybuilding show? No. I keep telling him no. I discuss with my parents. I discuss with my grandparents. I discuss with my brother. And Avner finally gives me an ultimatum. He's like, I'm not asking you again. Tomorrow is your last chance. I ask you if you want to do this bodybuilding show. If you say no, I'm not asking you again. So I go home and I would like run to the gym. It was probably like 1.5 miles. And it was like, kind of like, I could hear myself think. And I'm like visualizing Arnold in his education of a bodybuilder, like going to another country to compete. And I go home and I tell my parents after Amir telling me to pull my head out of my ass and Avner being like, yo, man, make a decision. You figure it out. If you want to do this, let's friggin' make a decision. I shouldn't have to try to convince you. So I'm like, if I do this bodybuilding show, it's in 2 weeks. I need 6 meals a day. You know, I'm copying the body. I need 6 meals a day. I need to go to the beach. I need to tan. I'm like, I will not say yes if I can't have chicken and rice all day plus eggs for breakfast. So they're like, yes, you could do it. They're like, yes, we'll do it. So we go to the beach the next day, and Avner's gym's going to close at like 9. And my uncle says something to the guy that you rent chairs from. He's like, hey, this is my nephew. My nephew's going to enter a bodybuilding show. And there's not a lot of bodybuilders. This is 1994 in Israel. Bodybuilding, like people thought like I was like a superhero, yet I weigh like 190 pounds. He's like, really? If he wins that bodybuilding show, I'll give you chairs for free. So then my uncle's like, Zach, you better win this bodybuilding show. So now I got people saying, believe in yourself. I got people saying, hey, get your head out of your ass. I'm telling you now, You want to do this? Like, you talk about being a bodybuilder, be a bodybuilder. Then I got Crazy Joe, who's training to be a Navy SEAL, who trained with me. That environment for those 3 weeks completely transformed me. The next, after the beach, I go to the gym. There's nobody in the gym. Avner, I go down the stairs. Avner's like sitting on a bench just waiting to close the gym at 9 at night. And he's like, says in Hebrew, he's like, yes or no? And I'm like, yes. He's like, we start training now. And it was like Rocky 3 where like, Adrian tells like Rocky, she's like, I want you to win. It was like fucking training for war. I would train in the morning. I would come back and train at night. I would run to the gym. I'd practice posing. I was like fully immersed in it. And I learned, I think I created like an alter ego, but it took enough pain and finally being in a consistent environment of positive people and tough people kind of putting me together. And that bodybuilding show and that experience, it changed me, because I remember when I came back home to America, in 2 weeks, I went from 185 to 197. And I always look back and say, nothing changed in my training or my nutrition. The only thing that changed was my mind.
Yeah. The show didn't change you. He did. And I think that's what we need to remember as coaches, mentors, and humans.
It's the people that change you, not the thing
and
or the sport.
It was only one question. It was only one statement that he said at one specific time that had an impact and changed your entire life, right?
Yes or no. And Amir saying, dude, give yourself permission to be happy and to just be like,
well, we all have that, right? So we all have people that we speak to, communicate with, that the opportunity is always there.
Yes.
That we don't know if it's positive or negative, but we can do our best, to try to make it always positive.
Today, now it's this, Dave. Like you said, your environment is everything you take in.
Yeah.
The movies you watch, the podcasts you consume, you just said it, the books you read. If you feed yourself powerful stuff, it could change somebody's life.
Yeah, and if all you feed is negative, it's going to be bad.
That person will always be negative, unless, I don't want to say always, right? I don't like to operate in extremes, right? But it's going to be a hell of a battle to get out of that environment if you've been feeding it to your brain for years.
Yeah, I mean, you've done a lot of mentorship in the business sector, to where with your background that we're talking about, working really, really hard, but not seeing a positive yield from that is a huge lesson to learn at a young age, right? Because albeit business or anything else, hard work, even the right hard work, doesn't guarantee that there's going to be an outcome that you want. You have to find satisfaction in that hard work and trust, that it's going to work out. But sometimes it's not what you think. So you should never fucking feel entitled just because you worked hard, because there's no guarantee. The guarantee and the fulfillment is in the hard work, and people get that all mixed up.
And there's of course, we're talking about the lessons we learn through the hard work, but a lot of people are attached to the result and not the journey that built them and calloused them and molded them into that. And to this day, like, sometimes, with business, that is very frustrating. You work so hard, you put this thing together, people said they wanted it, you create it, you put it out there, and then you're like, well, where is the people that said they were going to do this thing? Fucks with your head a little bit. I just had this conversation. I mentioned my buddy Joe from Varsity House. He's like, Zach, I could help you with the business. He's like, but you got to handle the head shit. And I like that, because I think a real friend is not going to try to, bullshit you and protect you. A real friend sometimes needs to drag you into the fire and feed you to the fucking wolves to force you to fight and figure things out. And that's what happened when I was in Israel. That was a life-changing experience for me. And it took a lot of fire and pain leading up to it. So the timing, was correct. But I feel like as men and women, but, man to man here and men listening, we need those tough times. Like I go back to it. Like I tell kids, you're training for your sport. There's a different kind of training going on when somebody's saying they're going to kick your fucking ass. I remember a kid telling me, like, he was like, I'll fucking see you at that football game. And I remember being at the gym being like, all right, if you get 3 more reps, you'll win this fight. Like, that's a different training than if I'm training for sport. And so I always say to kids, when's the last time you got punched in the face? When's the last time somebody said, give me your lunch money? When's the last time somebody said, I'll see you after school? I don't know. Maybe it's happening in some of like obviously the inner cities where kids are, hey, I'm walking home from school and I could get shot, you know, if you're in Camden or whatever's going on in those places outside of DC. But that kind of training inspires you because you're training out of like a fear. You know, when things are so perfect, what lessons do we learn?
What motivated you to begin coaching people?
What happened was my freshman year in college, not wrestling, I started showing up at the high school, and the recreation program would come in after high school wrestling practice. So one day I was there, and the guy Brian, the coach, I remember Brian had like these fucking big arms,